Mercedes is not in trouble because Russell and Antonelli touched. Mercedes is in trouble because the clash exposed a truth no dominant team wants the world to see. The fastest car on the grid now has two drivers fighting for the same throne. George Russell left Canada saying he has nothing to lose. Kimi Antonelli left with a 43-point lead. The radio messages exploded. A private meeting was exposed. Toto Wolff warned that teammate freedom may not last. And now, just before Monaco, Mercedes has to bring that tension to the one circuit where pride has nowhere to escape. No runoff. No second chance. No room for two drivers who both believe they deserve control. Because Russell is not just chasing a win. He is fighting to recover the Mercedes role he thought was his. Antonelli is not just defending points. He is forcing Mercedes to treat him like the championship leader. And if they arrive at the same corner in Monaco with Canada still burning in their minds, one tiny touch could turn the strongest team in Formula One into its own worst enemy. So now Mercedes faces the question it cannot avoid. Do they let them race and risk disaster? Or do they choose a side and risk starting a rebellion? Subscribe to the channel. At first, Mercedes could still pretend this was just normal pressure. That was the safe version. Two fast drivers. One dominant car. A championship fight that began earlier than expected. A little heat after Canada, but nothing a team like Mercedes had not seen before. That is the story every top team tries to protect when things begin to crack. Hard racing. Strong personalities. Competitive hunger. The kind of tension that looks dangerous from the outside, but can still be managed behind closed doors. But the problem is, this was not just one heated moment. Canada did not create the internal war. Canada exposed it. And that is why Mercedes is in trouble before Monaco. Because by the time Russell and Antonelli reached that first corner, the garage had already changed. The tension was already loaded. The doubts were already there. The points table was already turning the team's original plan upside down. To understand why this clash matters so much, you have to go back to the beginning of the season, when Mercedes still looked like it had everything under control. Australia was supposed to be the perfect start. Russell won. Antonelli finished second. A Mercedes won too. Clean. Powerful. Almost too perfect. For the cameras, it looked like harmony. Russell at the front. Antonelli behind him. The experienced driver leading. The young star learning. That was exactly the order Mercedes wanted the world to see. And for Russell, it mattered deeply. Because this season was supposed to be his moment. He was not arriving as a hopeful outsider. He was not arriving as a temporary option. He was the driver who had waited, absorbed pressure, survived difficult seasons, and carried the expectation that eventually, when Mercedes gave him a title-winning car, he would be ready. The W17 looked like that car. Fast. Stable. Dominant. The kind of machine that can turn a driver from contender into champion if the team around him stays united. So when Russell won in Australia, the message felt clear. This is his team now. This is his campaign. This is the beginning of the Mercedes era Russell had been waiting for. But Formula One rarely breaks a story in public first. It usually begins quietly. Inside the data. And behind that clean Australian result, Mercedes had already seen the first warning. Antonelli was faster in one of the most technical parts of Albert Park. Not by a massive margin. Not enough to erase Russell's victory. But enough to make people inside the garage pay attention. And in Formula One, that matters. Because the stopwatch has no loyalty. It does not care who is older. It does not care who waited longer. It does not care who was supposed to lead. It only asks one question. Who is extracting more from the car? That was the first crack. Not a crash. Not a radio message. Not a public argument. Just a quiet signal that the 19-year-old rookie might not behave like a rookie at all. At first, Mercedes could contain it. Russell had the trophy. Antonelli had the promise. The hierarchy still looked stable from the outside. But inside a team, even a small performance signal can change the air. Every debrief becomes sharper. Every sector comparison becomes more important. Every lap starts to carry an invisible question. Is Antonelli already closer than he should be? Then China gave the answer. Russell took pole position, and for one day, it looked like he had shut down the doubt. Pole is not just a grid position. It is a statement of authority. It tells the team that when the car is light, the pressure is high, and one lap has to be perfect, the established driver still owns the moment. Russell had given Mercedes a reason to believe the original order still existed. But Sunday did not protect that story. Antonelli used strategy with precision. He executed the undercut, moved ahead, and once he had the lead, he did not panic. He did not drive like a young driver surprised by his own opportunity. He did not wait for Russell to take control back. He stayed there. And that changed everything. Because a rookie can look quick. A rookie can get lucky. A rookie can benefit from timing. But when a rookie beats his experienced teammate in the same car, and does it while taking control of the championship, the team has a new reality. Antonelli was no longer just the future of Mercedes. He was becoming the present. For Russell, that was the most painful kind of defeat. Not losing to another team. Losing to the mirror image of his own machinery. Same car. Same engineers. Same strategy room. Same meetings. Same data. That is what makes teammate battles so brutal. There is no comfortable excuse. Every defeat becomes personal because the comparison is direct. And in China, the comparison hurt Russell even more because of the timing of a mechanical issue in qualifying. He had a problem at a critical moment, when he was trying to complete another fast lap. Mercedes investigated, but the immediate cause was not clearly identified. That does not prove anything sinister. It does not prove favoritism. It does not prove a conspiracy inside the team. But for a driver fighting his own teammate, timing becomes emotional. A mechanical problem at the wrong moment does not feel like a small technical detail. It feels like the season taking something away from you. Especially when the other Mercedes is collecting the result. After China, Antonelli led the championship. That was the first major shift. Before China, Russell could still believe the season was moving through him. After China, the season was moving through Antonelli. And once that happens, the pressure inside a team changes. Then came Japan. Suzuka should have been Russell's chance to take the story back. He had pace. He looked strong. He was in position to fight for victory. It felt like the kind of weekend where an experienced driver can stop the momentum from turning into something permanent. But the safety car arrived at exactly the wrong time. For Antonelli, it was perfect. For Russell, it was brutal. Antonelli gained. Russell lost the advantage he had been building. And once again, the key moment of the race seemed to lean toward the other side of the Mercedes garage. On paper, that is simply racing. But drivers do not live inside paper. They live inside pressure. They remember the timing. They remember the lost chance. They remember the feeling of doing enough, only for the race to move against them. Russell later said that when he looked at the safety car timing in Japan, it felt like the gods did not want him in the fight. That sentence was revealing because it showed that Russell was no longer processing each setback separately. He was connecting them. China, Japan, then Miami. The story was becoming a pattern in his mind. And patterns are dangerous in Formula One because they change how a driver hears everything. A strategy call sounds different. A setup direction sounds different. A reliability issue feels heavier. A teammate victory feels like proof that the world has already chosen. Meanwhile, Antonelli kept winning. And every win made the original Mercedes hierarchy harder to defend. Russell had the experience, but Antonelli had the momentum. Russell had the expectation, but Antonelli had the points. Russell had the claim that this was supposed to be his season, but Antonelli had the results that were rewriting that claim in real time. Then Miami made the conflict deeper than emotion. Because Miami suggested the car itself might be part of the problem. Antonelli won again. Russell finished fourth. And the internal analysis pointed toward a key difference in driving style. Antonelli seemed able to protect the rear tires more effectively during demanding laps, generating less temperature and keeping the car in a stronger working range. That sounds technical, but it is simple. Think of the tires like running shoes on a hot road. If you push too hard, too early, they start to slide. You lose grip. You lose confidence. You cannot move the way you want. But if your steps are smoother, if your touch is cleaner, the grip lasts longer. That is what Antonelli seemed to be doing with the W17. The car looked like it understood him. Russell, meanwhile, was fighting the balance. And that matters more than most people realize. A Formula One car can be the fastest car in the world, but if the driver does not trust the rear of it, that speed becomes difficult to use. He brakes with doubt. He turns with doubt. He accelerates with doubt. And in Formula One, doubt is expensive. A tiny hesitation becomes a tenth. A tenth becomes a lost position. A lost position becomes a changed strategy. A changed strategy becomes a race slipping away. Russell said the car was not giving him what he needed, and when a driver does not have confidence, he cannot attack. That line carried real weight. Because it was not just about setup. It was about trust. Trust in the car. Trust in the direction of development. Trust that Mercedes was still building a title campaign around both drivers equally. Once that trust begins to weaken, every technical decision becomes emotional. A wing change is no longer just a wing change. A tire preparation choice is no longer just a tire preparation choice. A strategy preference is no longer just a strategy preference. Everything starts to raise the same uncomfortable question. Who does this help? Russell had every reason to feel that the W17 was beginning to fit Antonelli better. Antonelli had every reason to feel that the results proved he deserved more attention. And Mercedes had the worst possible problem. Both arguments made sense. That is what makes an internal war so difficult to contain. It is not always built on one driver being clearly wrong. Sometimes, it begins when both drivers have enough evidence to believe they are right. By the time the team reached Canada, the tension was no longer hidden in lap times alone. It was in the words. Russell admitted that he had expected to be the main protagonist of the season, and that had not happened. That was a major statement. Not because it was angry. Because it was honest. He was saying the role he thought belonged to him had been taken away in public, race by race, podium by podium, result by result. Antonelli answered from the strongest position a driver can have. The championship table. He said he was the championship leader, and that said everything about the state of things. No insult. No drama. Just the scoreboard. And sometimes the scoreboard is the coldest weapon in Formula One. Because Russell could explain bad timing. He could explain mechanical frustration. He could explain a car balance that did not give him confidence. But Antonelli could point to the one thing that ends arguments faster than anything else. Points. That is why Canada was already explosive before the cars touched. The sprint clash was not just two drivers fighting into turn 1. It was the first public collision between two completely different versions of the Mercedes season. Russell's version said, "This was supposed to be my title fight, and I am not stepping aside." Antonelli's version said, "I am leading this championship, and the team cannot ignore that." So when Russell defended hard, it was never going to feel like just a defensive move. And when Antonelli reacted, it was never going to sound like normal frustration. He said Russell had closed him off. He said he had been pushed wide. He wanted a penalty. He said it could not be tolerated. But the line that mattered most was simple. He said Russell was his teammate. That word carried the whole conflict. A teammate is not a random rival. A teammate is supposed to understand the invisible limit. You can fight, but do not wreck the team. You can defend, but do not risk both cars. You can chase victory, but do not turn the garage into a battlefield. Antonelli believed Russell had crossed that internal line. Russell believed the rule book supported him. That is why the situation is so dangerous. Because both can be true in different ways. A move can avoid investigation and still damage trust. A defense can be legal and still feel unacceptable inside the team. A driver can survive the stewards and still lose the confidence of the person across the garage. Then came the line that changed the public understanding completely. Antonelli referred to the meeting. That meant Mercedes had already spoken privately about how the two drivers should race each other. The team had already seen the tension coming. The team had already tried to set boundaries. The team had already understood that this rivalry needed control before Canada fully exploded. And that is the real warning before Monaco. Because if a meeting could not stop the clash in Canada, what happens on the narrowest circuit of the year? What happens when the first corner is tighter, the walls are closer, and the cost of one small squeeze is far greater? This is why Mercedes is in big trouble. The internal war is not just a media story. It is a control problem. Toto Wolff tried to manage it immediately. He told Antonelli to focus on driving, not complaining over the radio. That was an attempt to stop the emotion from spreading while the race was still alive. But Mercedes also warned both drivers that they needed to compete without taking more risk. That warning said everything. The team was no longer only managing tires, strategy, or pace. It was managing behavior. And once a team has to manage behavior between teammates, trust has already weakened. Later, Wolff made the deeper issue clear. He asked whether Russell and Antonelli should race each other like they were fighting a third car, or whether it should be different because they are teammates. That is the central question before Monaco. Because if they race like strangers, Mercedes risks disaster. If they race like teammates, someone has to compromise. And if someone has to compromise, the next question becomes brutal. Who? Russell, the experienced driver who expected to lead the season? Or Antonelli, the championship leader with a 43-point advantage? That gap changes everything. 43 points does not end the championship. But it changes the politics. It makes Antonelli more valuable to protect. It makes Russell's attacks more dangerous to the team. It makes every Mercedes decision feel like a possible declaration of priority. And Russell knows it. That is why his words after Canada matter so much. When Russell's car died in the race, it did more than cost him a result. He had been leading. The W17 lost electronics and power. He asked what had happened. He said he had nothing. Then he asked why. Why? That one word carried all the frustration of the opening races. Why did the mechanical problem come in China? Why did the safety car timing punish him in Japan? Why did Miami show the car suiting Antonelli better? Why did Canada take away the race he finally looked ready to control? Mercedes told him it was an inverter problem and that he had to park the car. Technically, that was the explanation. Emotionally, it could not repair the damage. Russell stepped out of the car having lost more than a race. He had lost another chance to stop Antonelli's momentum. And after the race, he said the championship was Antonelli's now, unless Antonelli lost it. That was the moment his mindset changed in public. Then he said the pressure had disappeared. He would enjoy every race, try to win each one, and he had nothing to lose. That sentence is why Monaco is so dangerous. A driver with nothing to lose can be thrilling. He can also be terrifying. He may break later. He may defend harder. He may stop protecting the long-term picture if he believes the title already belongs to the other side of the garage.